Efra at Siftach's new location. We're so excited to be here, and we are starting the brand new book, Chumash Bamidbar, the fourth book or the fourth installment of the Torah. So as we enter into Bamidbar, we're going to talk today about a couple of things. Today's class is going to be about, we're going to discuss the name Bamidbar and why the whole entire book is called the desert, why the Torah was specifically given in a desert and not in Eretz Yisrael, in our homeland, why the Torah, which is the book of life, was given in a place of barrenness, of death. We're also going to talk about the book of Numbers, why the entire book of this fourth book of Torah is called the book of Numbers. The reason simply is that we are counted in the beginning of the book and somewhere towards the end of the book. But to name the entire book the book of Numbers surely has implies some significance of being counted. So we're going to talk about the significance of counting in Judaism, and we're going to talk about the significance of Bamidbar and receiving the Torah, because every single year Parshat Bamidbar read the Shabbat before Shavuot. It's always read this week before. So there's a lot of significance in the Parsha, in counting, in the idea of the desert and the receiving of the Torah. So we're going to talk about the significance of Shavuot, receiving the Torah, which is coming up this Friday, in 1 week from Shabbat, and all of the other questions. And we're going to also explore a little bit about the desert in general and what the significance on our forming of the Jewish nation and the desert. Because interestingly enough, we know that we wandered in the desert for only 40 years. We've already been in the desert for a while. We've already received the Torah. But the Torah dedicates an entire book to this 40-year period in the desert when most of our existence as a Jewish nation took place in so many other places. So if Torah was a history book, then it would be a pretty bad book. Imagine someone writes a history book, right? And there's 5 volumes about the history of the entire nation, right? The Roman history. And the book would then dedicate, right? Our Jewish history is over 5,000 years old. But from when the history was written, it was from the year 0 until the year, let's say 3000, right? When the Torah was given 2448, 40 years later, so the year 500, right? So only 500 years. Now imagine one entire history book would be dedicated to only 40 years of those 2,500 years. You would be like, this author got a little bit distracted and obsessed, hyper focused. He got a little bit distracted over here and just spent like an entire book focusing on just 40 years rather than spacing it out evenly, like the first 1,000 years, 800 years, the next 800 years, etc. In fact, it's so interesting because we spent 210 years in Egypt, and there's only less than one entire book dedicated to the time we spent in Egypt. We have the first 2,000 years of Jewish history before we got to Egypt, which only is dedicated with only Bereshit dedicated to that. So one book dedicated to 2,000 years, and a few hundred years dedicated to one book, and now 40 years being dedicated to another book. Well, Vayikra was the laws, So we want to understand the significance. So clearly, being in the desert has a very deep connection to our existence as a Jewish nation, individually and nationally. So we want to explore the desert a lot today. What the desert teaches us about our lives and what the deeper messages we can learn from the fact that not just that the Torah is given in the desert, but the fact that the Torah dedicates an entire volume to our 40-year experience in the desert, right? Which wasn't even meant to happen, right? It was a detour from this 40-year detour from Egypt to receiving, our land, our promised land, Eretz Yisrael, which we are now. Okay, so let's dive right in. The first thing we're going to talk about today, we'll first zoom out a little bit, right? So where are we in Jewish history? We are after receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai historically, right? But in the Parshios, right, like in the Jewish calendar right now, we're receiving the Torah. We're personally receiving the Torah next week. But historically, we're after receiving the Torah, after the sin of the golden calf, which happened a month afterwards, and after Vayikra, which is after we established our sanctuary, which was the Mishkan, to accompany us in the desert for our journey towards receiving the Torah, which wasn't meant to be 40 years, right? The 40-year detour happened because of the sin of the spies, which is yet to occur. So we are historically after becoming a Jewish nation to God, after being enslaved in Egypt, after receiving the Torah, after building the sanctuary, all of the laws, which pretty much encompass most of Vayikra, building the Mishkan, building this home for Hashem, right? Which is actually even a bigger question because Bamidbar expands 40 years, but Vayikra really only expands a couple of years, right? It expands really just the building of the Mishkan and all the laws associated with that. But that was for last time. And here we're at the brink of this journey towards getting to Eretz Yisrael, which shouldn't take very long. It should take a couple of weeks, a couple of days at most. And we're about to face a lot of setbacks on the way to the desert. So we're here in Bamidbar. We were already forgiven for the counting for the sin of the spies, and we begin this brand new Chumash, this brand new volume of the Chumash, and it says, oh gosh, let me open up your Bamidbar, Aleph Aleph, the very first verse opens up in your sources. Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Lemar, and God spoke to Moshe in, thank you for your service, in the Midbar of Sinai, in the Sinai desert, Ohel Moed, right? In the tent of meeting, in the sanctuary that they built in their desert oasis, right? So when are we now? The Torah tells us it is the first of the second month, which is Iyar. So it's Aleph Iyar, which is coming up next week, right? Or this week? Nisan Iyar. The second, yes, never mind, which happened already. The Shana Hashem is the So it's the first day of the second month of the second year. They're 2 years after leaving Egypt. And now Hashem is speaking to them, saying, right? And he's going to tell them that Moshe should count the Jewish people. That's what's about to happen. He's saying, take a new census of the Jewish people. Now, Rashi comments over there. Now, here's what Rashi comments. He says, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, now count the Jewish people. I want to know how many of them are left. First of all, counting, this is where we get the book of Numbers, right? In English, the fourth book of the Torah, Bamidbar, is translated not as the desert, but as Numbers. And because it begins with counting the Jewish people, and towards the end, we count them again. So Rashi brings over here, he says, why is Hashem counting us? Hashem knows how many we are. Hashem could just say, here's how many people. Why is he counting us? If he could just tell Moshe, this is how many people. God does everything. He clearly could count us, right? So why is Hashem counting us? Out of love. Rashi brings down, he's counting us out of love because Hashem counts us all the time out of his love for us, right? And until now, since we left Egypt, this is actually the third time Hashem is counting us. When we left Egypt, we were counted to see how many of us actually left Egypt. I was just thinking about you literally yesterday. I'm so happy to see you had a baby. Mazal tov. Mazal tov. Literally yesterday, I was just thinking of you, and I was like, I wonder, I haven't seen you in so long. Okay, so let's go back. So we're going to continue in this Rashi. When we left Mitzrayim, we were counted. Then when we sinned with the Egel, after we sinned with the golden calf, we were counted afterwards to see how many Jews survived that plague, whoever died and was killed off after that. So I need this, because you guys could share, and to know how many are left. And when Hashem now is about to enter the Shekhinah into the Ohel Moed, so the Mishkan, the sanctuary, the oasis, has been built, but the Shekhinah, the presence of God, has not yet descended into it, has not yet come into, rested upon the Shekhinah in this oasis with his cloud of glory. And Hashem is about to come in it, and right before Hashem wants to count us again. So these are the three, and historically, how many times would you imagine that we've been counted historically throughout all of history, Jewish history? And we've been counted 3 times out of, who just said 10? Exactly. We've been counted 9 times, and the 10th time is when Mashiach comes, we're all going to be counted again. So we've only been counted 9 times in the entire history of 5,000 years by God. And this is, right after we left Egypt, it doesn't say who counted them. It just says they were counted, and this is how many Jews left. The second time, it says Moshe was supposed to count them through the machzas the shekel. After the sin, Moshe was supposed to take a half a shekel from each person and then count that and tally it up to see how many of us are left. I think we discussed that in that parsha, in Parshat Kisisa, maybe this year, maybe other years. And now Hashem is about to rest his presence in the tent. There's something really beautiful about the last 2 times. It was only a month ago that, was it a year? Not a month or a year. It was probably about a year before this when they were counted after sinning with the golden calf, and probably 2 years before, and now they're being counted again. Why such a close counting if it's only 9 times in history? And there's something really actually deep conveyed here in this beautiful, in the juxtaposition of the past 2 times Hashem counted us, that they couldn't be different than one another. One is right after we sinned, right? We're at our lowest point to see how many Jews are left that survived literally betraying God a month after our wedding, right? We got married to God at Har Sinai. A month later, we betrayed and said, God forsake us. Let's build a new God, this golden calf, and bow down to it. And there Hashem counted us out of his love for us, right? To see how many are left, to count how precious we are. And now, 2 years later, when we're at the holiest place, we just built this home for Hashem. And Hashem's about to enter our marital home, this union with us, and Hashem is counting us again. And we learn, and Chassidus teaches us that this is to teach us something so valuable. We count things that are precious to us, right? Counting signifies, Rashi says, we count things that are precious to us because we don't count things that are invaluable, right? We don't count how many, actually I do count the lice of my kids that I pick out of their hair, but that's because I'm counting my time out of boys' hair. Well, my boys had lice. We don't count, right? It's precious to me. We don't count garbage, right? If we have garbage collected in our garbage bin, we're not counting how many pieces of garbage we collected. We don't count things that are trash to us, things that we're throwing away. When I'm throwing out, donating clothing, I'm not counting how many clothing are in the bag because it's insignificant to me. You count things that are significant to you, right? People are counted. Diamonds are counted, right? So you have a bag of trash, you're not counting it. But if you made a sale at an event and you come home with money, right, Daniela? You come home, you want to count how much money you made, right? Hopefully you made lots and lots of parnasa. You want to count the money because money is valuable. You count something that's valuable. You don't count something that has no value because there's no point to it. So by counting us, it's showing the value that we have, the inner value that we have. It shows that you are worth being counted. And the message to us in this is, and I always share the story about the Lubavitcher Rebbe who would give out dollars every single Sunday for hours. Every Sunday, Sunday dollars were instituted in the 80s, I think, to replace Yechidus, which meant one-on-one meetings that people used to have with the Rebbe for 20 minutes, hours a night, which would happen until 4 a.m. But there was no time anymore to meet with the amount of people that wanted to see the Rebbe. So there wouldn't have actually been enough physical time. So instead of that, there was Yechidus was booted, and instead it was replaced by Sunday dollars from early in the morning for hours and hours and hours. The Rebbe would just stand without eating, without taking a break, without sitting down, and distribute dollars to men and women. Each person would have a few moments to ask whatever they wanted, bracha they wanted to ask from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would give them $1. Now, what was the idea of the dollars? Why not just have a moment with the Rebbe and get a bracha? The dollar, when someone asked the Rebbe, why do you give $1 to each person? It costs thousands and thousands of dollars every Sunday because thousands of people, the lines were hours and hours long. The dollar, the Rebbe said, was something that he learned from his father, the previous Rebbe, his father-in-law, that when two Jews meet, a third person should benefit, a third Jew should benefit. So the dollar he gave them was actually supposed to be put in the tzedakah box. Now, most people keep it.
No, I got mine right away. I thought I was supposed to.
No, you're supposed to. You're supposed to. Most people keep their dollar because it's significant to them because they received it from the Rebbe, and instead the Rebbe said it's okay. You could just give a different one to tzedakah. But the idea is that you and I are meeting. Whenever two people meet, it should benefit another person, which is such an amazing, expansive way of thinking. So now, why am I saying the story? There was a woman who once couldn't hold herself back. There was an older woman who knew the Rebbe was older, right? He was an older man, and he was standing for hours and hours at a time. She said, Rebbe, how do you do it? How do you not tire? How do you stand for so long? And the Rebbe smiled at her and said, you can never tire of counting diamonds. And every single soul that passes by him is a gem, is a diamond, right? No matter who they are. So he says, how could you get tired when you're counting diamonds? If you had diamonds to count, you would never get tired. You could stand for hours doing it. So the Rebbe said, you don't get tired when you're counting diamonds. So that shows that when you count somebody, they're significant. Now, the significance of the last 2 times Hashem counted us was to teach us that you might feel that we're significant to Hashem now because now we built this beautiful home for Hashem, right? We gave and donated everything that we have. We're at the highest level. We've done teshuvah. So now we're worthy to Hashem. We're being counted. But Hashem says, you're exactly as precious to me. I'm counting you now, but I also counted you right after you sinned. When you were at your lowest, when you betrayed me, you are precious to me then also because our connection, the love I have for you is beyond how good you are, what you do on paper. The deeper, there's an element of our love. Of course, it's pleasurable. It brings joy, it brings nachas. And to Hashem, when we do all the Torah mitzvahs, when we're at our best, but our connection to Hashem runs much deeper than that. And Hashem is saying, your value to me is not based on how much you can give to me in this relationship. Your value to me is infinite. It's based on who you are, your soul. So when I count you at your lowest and at your highest, I'm saying that you're equal to me. And that's actually the message of counting in general. Counting in Judaism is the ultimate paradox because counting does 2 things that are opposite at the same time, just like many things in Judaism, right? We are a walking opposite. We are a walking physical human being pulled to materialism all the time, pulled to lower things. And at the same time, we are godly and infinite. So we're finite, mortal, and we're infinite at the same time. We're walking paradoxes. We could be angry at somebody and love them at the same time. We can hold opposites all the time. We are literally walking opposites, walking paradox. And the counting signifies that on a very deep level because counting, on the one hand, is the ultimate equalizer. Counting is to remind us that now, right, we're becoming a nation, especially in the Midbar. We'll talk connection to the desert later, which is why desert and numbers, although they seem like, who could translate the word desert as numbers? You actually realize that the essence of what a desert is and the essence of what accounting is are actually so similar. They're both intended to bring us to a level where the essence, which is equal in everybody, comes to surface. When we count somebody, it's the ultimate equalizer in that if you have all the Jewish people are only counted 1 time, but Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the greatest man, right, and the humblest man on the face of earth, is only counted once, and the most simple person is also only counted once. Moshe is not counted more than once because he's greater. So we're told that each person is only one. only counts one. You can have a minyan, right? If we have a minyan, the rabbi is not counted more times than the most simple person who doesn't even, was dragged off the street to come help make the minyan. And actually, the word for minyan, when you say tzibur, a shaliach tzibur, someone who comes to be the chazan for the minyan, the word tzibur in Judaism is made up of 3 letters: tzaddik, bet, and resh, intentionally to convey that a kahila, a tzibur, a community, is only complete if it's made up of a tzaddik, which begins with the letter tzaddik, a bet for Benoni, an intermediary person, which we're striving to be, and a rasha, this person who doesn't do any Torah mitzvot, right? The person who's as far from Judaism. A tzibur has to be made of all of us equally, because without the rasha, the tzibur is not complete. If we have a community of Jewish people and we're only focused on the tzaddikim, or only on the Behanim and tzaddikim, and we're rejecting the Rishayim, we're not complete, right? It would be like saying that we're one body. When we accepted the Torah, when we became Hashem's nation, we didn't only get to connect to Hashem, we became one unit. We all became joined with one another. When I think about how my personal, like the Torah being a gift to me, because we were taught that the Torah is a gift. And when I think about why the Torah is a gift to me in my personal life, right, parts of the Torah to me are more burdensome, and parts of the Torah to me are, not that it should be that way, but it is. Some of the parts of the Torah I just do, and they're difficult for me to do. I'm not like, wow, I love this mitzvah. And other mitzvahs, I'm just like, wow, like, thank God I couldn't survive without Shabbos. Like, what a gift to me. Like, how could anyone live without Shabbos, right? And one of those things I think about is the gift of having, like, family members, that the Jewish people can be a stranger. I can be in a country and then I hear that someone's Jewish, and then suddenly they're my family member. They care about me like they care about their family almost, right? They'll worry for me. It's just the greatest gift. You can just have family members everywhere in the world, that we are one unit. And the reason for that is that all our souls come from one body part. We're from Adam Kadmon, spiritually. We descend from one full body. And just like a body is not complete, you can't just say that, I'm only going to worry about the most important organs of my body. Like, I don't care about my toenails, my toes. Like, those are not significant parts of my body, right? I'll worry about the health of my brain, my vital organs. But my toes, my toenails, what will happen if we reject to clean and take care of those parts of our body? We can grow infections. We can even stub our toe. If we stub our toe and we say, what, forget about that, like the rasha, the lower parts of the Jewish koma achas, the Jewish organism, we can't just ignore it, because a stubbed toe affects every single part of our body. Our brain and our vital organs won't be able to function if we have a fungal or infected toenail, right? The lowest toenail affects the entire organism. So the whole world is created as one big organism. We all depend on one another. And even more intimately, though, and more felt even stronger within the larger organism, there's smaller ecosystems, right? Every ecosystem depends on every single organism, whether or not you want to feel like you are part of this larger organism, whether you feel like I'm just my own person doing my own thing. We don't often see the effects that every single one of us have to have. But in the Jewish community, we feel it so strongly. If one Jew is suffering in Efrat, the rest of Israel is feeling the pain, right? If a family was murdered in Efrat, the whole organism feels the pain. They feel tragedy on Pesach. We feel it much more intimately. Just like if my family member is hurting, I feel it. But if my body is hurting physically, I feel it all the time, right? I can never distract from it. So I can feel the entire world. If something happens in the world, we all feel it. But if my actual body, which is like spiritually the entire Jewish nation, is hurting, I feel it in a much more strong, pervasive way, because it's part of my actual body. You can't ignore it as much. You can't disconnect. You can't compartmentalize a pain in your body. So you might want to reject the Rishayim in our community, but that's like saying, I'm going to just reject the pain that I feel in my finger. But you can't do that. You just can't ignore it, because we're made up of a tzibur, of a tzaddik, Beoni, and rasha, and we're all needed equally. Even though there's more vital organs, which are definitely more vital, we still are not complete without the lower organs in our body, the lowest parts of our body, which is such an amazing, which is actually in the second chapter of Tanya, like what discusses like all of the sources in Torah which compare us to parts of one large body, and how the greatest tzaddikim are like the brain of the nation and the heart, and then our generation, Chachamim, compared to the heels. Thousands of years ago, they said that our generation is the heels of the Jewish organism, because we're so desensitized to spirituality. Our heel, we could cut it with a knife, right? You shave your heel, you don't feel it. If we do that to another part of our body, it would hurt a lot more. We're such a spiritually desensitized nation. We talked about that in the Shir and Parshas Ekev more, right? And the heel to talk about our nation. Anyways, so all of this is to say that, to bring it all back right now, that counting is this double-edged paradox, that on the one hand, it brings out the fact that all of us are equally significant, that all of us are equal. It's an equalizer. Counting is saying that you're one, you're a number, you're just one number like everyone else, there's no statuses within counting, right? When you count everybody, you lose status. I'm just saying 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you mean I'm 1, 2, 3? I'm the class queen. I'm the class president. No, you're just a number now, right? And lahavdil in the Holocaust, when the Jewish people were given numbers, it signified that they were all equally insignificant. They were all equally Jewish. It signified that the greatest rabbi and the person who was an atheist who didn't care about their Jewish heritage, to the Nazis as a number, it didn't matter who you were. It was an ultimate equalizer for the negative, lahavdil, right? For the side of evil. And the side of holiness, Hashem is saying, when he counts us in Jewish, do you know how to say counting in Hebrew? Besides for the word lispor, right? We're counting Sfirat Omer. Sefira means to illuminate, right? A sapir is a shining stone. And the other word for counting is kisisa. In the Torah, when it says, when you count, kitisa, right? We have Parshas Kitisa, which was the Parsha of the Egel. We have to uplift. Kitisa is to raise up. When you count somebody, you raise them up. So on the one hand, you're equalizing them and saying you're just an insignificant number, but at the same time, you're shining them up and lighting them up. How is that possible? That at one time, I'm humbling you and saying you're just a number like everybody else, and at the same time, I'm showing your significance by raising you up, by shining out you. How do we see that? When we're counting right now, I'll give the example of counting the Omer, because we're counting 49 days to receiving the Torah now. When you're counting the Omer and you're just like, oh, let me just skip this number, right? When you skip one number, all the other numbers can't function without that one number. Because if you're missing number 13, the number 49 is no longer number 49. I'm not number 49 without number 13, because now I'm number 48 and I can't continue counting, which is why someone can only make a blessing if they count it every single day, because every day is dependent on the day before it. So when you're counting a total, if you pull out one number in the middle of an equation, right, you have this big mathematical equation and you think, what's one number? I'll just go, right? Then everything collapses. The whole equation is messed up if you change one decimal, right? It's like the example of when we're putting in we see it now in modern day, when we're putting in a website, right? You're typing in, it's saying the .com. Let me just take out the .com. When you think of the .com, it takes you to an entirely different page. If you make it .co without the com, it's another page, because every tiny detail matters. So going back to numbers, when you realize that you're just one number, but at the same time, the entire organism missing that one link can't work, right? One part of our body, even the most insignificant part, right? The platelets, right? We need the platelets, we need the oxygen, we need the blood, we need so many different particles in our body that seems so insignificant. If there's just one part of our body that isn't doing its job, even if it's a tiny part producing one hormone that is needed to do its part, all of the other things collapse. And there's two stories that come to mind that portray this. One is a silly story about the people of Chelm, who there was a king passing through the town, and they decided that to honor the king, they would have a big barrel and they would fill it with this, present this king with this massive barrel of wine. And the way they would do it is that every single person in the town would come from their own wine and pour a cup into the barrel until they had this giant barrel for the king. And they had a big ladder going up to this barrel, and every person came with their cup of wine and they poured it in. And when the king came to taste it, he was like, ew, this is water. And everyone was shocked. Like, what do you mean? We all poured in our wine. And what they realized is that every single person to themselves said, why should I waste my wine? They were a port city, port town. Why should I waste my wine? Everyone else is putting wine. I'll just put in water and it will make no difference, because look at this giant barrel. My wine won't matter, my wine or water. And every single person did this until there was only water in the barrel. That's one cute story to teach us that we feel sometimes so insignificant, like like, who am I in the larger picture? And when we think of that, we realize that a number, without my number, all the other numbers completely lose their significance. Not only that, but there's the story of a tzaddik that would daven for many, many hours. And I forget which tzaddik it was. There was a Chassidish rebbe that would daven for many, many hours. And all the other, everyone would wait for him to be finished davening. And they would wait in the other room. And then when he was done davening, then they would go home. Now, once they were very hungry, so they're waiting for another room to finish davening, and they're, listen, he's going to be davening for hours. Let's go home, eat our lunch, come back. He won't even know that we left, right? So they do that. They left, they go home, they come back, and he's not there. He's done davening hours early. Like, what happened? You usually daven for hours. We thought you wouldn't even notice because you're in your own thing. We're just sitting in behind you in the shul, and we came back and you're done davening. He said, you don't understand. He said it's like the story, and he gave an example to them. He said that there was he gives another example of a community that had to reach something very, very high to fix the clock in their town. And to do it, they made a chain of people to climb on each other's shoulders to fix, and to get to the top of the clock, to adjust the time of the clock, to change the batteries, whatever it was in those days, right? And the person somewhere in the middle was like, listen, they're going to take hours. Let me just go home and have a break. And who cares about me? I'm just somewhere, right? I'm just standing here. I'll come back later. So the guy in the middle and like the third rung leaves, and then the whole entire thing collapses. He says, my tefillah getting to the places that I get to in my tefillah was built upon all of your tefillos and all of you being there with me. When you walked away and left, my entire basis crumbled, so I wasn't able to reach the heights that I needed to get to. And they didn't understand that his height was based on them. They felt like, okay, he's doing the avoda. So we often, mostly, don't even recognize our significance in the entire organism, especially when we feel small in the Jewish community. When we feel like, okay, who am I? There's so many rabbis and rebbitzins. There's so many people who can do this better than me, and I feel like I connect with this more than I portray often. For a long time, until I was forced to speak as a Chabad shlocha, I was always very reluctant for Brain to talk, even though now I speak every week. It's because of my position. But every time I was asked to speak, I really felt like there's no point. Like, I felt like there's so many people who are way more qualified to speak than I do. People who learn more, people who have way more knowledge, people who are more religious and keep like the mitzvahs on a day-to-day basis than I do. Like, I've slacked off in most of my mitzvahs, even though you wouldn't know it because I'm not like sitting here to like confess. You're not a confessional booth. But I never felt like I'm the one to come up and talk. So I really pushed it aside to the point that I don't know if I've shared in this group specifically, but I think I may have shared in the past that I felt this the most when I was pregnant with. I was only 22 years old. I was pregnant with my first son, and I didn't realize I had severe depression, because I knew about postpartum depression, but I didn't know that depression can also start in pregnancy. Just as like a FYI about mental health, depression, postpartum depression specifically, is triggered by a combination of two things. When there's one hormonal change, which happens usually during birth, but it also happens during pregnancy when there's an intense hormonal shift, and any kind of trauma at the same time. So it's like a mathematical equation. When there's hormonal shifting and trauma, 1 + 1 could equal a postpartum depression, which is like a PTSD. The same thing as a PTSD. So I didn't recognize. So that's why I learned this afterwards. That's why often women get postpartum depression when they never had depression before, because the hormonal shift when they were delivering, plus many women have a traumatic birth. So the trauma with the hormonal shift can set on a depression. But it could also happen if somebody has a trauma when they're pregnant, or has a trauma right around when they deliver, or within a few months, sensitive months after having a baby. If someone experiences any type of trauma, losing a family member, getting divorced, experiencing any emotional separation with somebody, any emotional trauma or war that's at the similar time as a hormonal shift, that can trigger a postpartum depression, which is a chemical shift in your brain. It's not something that's like, oh, I'm just sad. It's actually a chemical shift that needs like either a lot of therapy or medication to reset your brain back to a normal way of thinking. Anyways, I thought this was a really good thing to know, because I didn't know this. So I didn't recognize that this personal trauma that I experienced during pregnancy, plus the shift in hormones, had triggered a depression. And at this time, before that, I was like I was so confident. Like, I felt like I was like, yeah, I could do anything. Like, I'm going to go to Israel and I'm going to start a center in the old city for Torah Hasidus learning. And I'm going to build this like big center, and soldiers and groups of people are going to come, and I'm going to like teach Hasidus to the whole world. And like within a few months, I went from that to like someone asked me to like speak to a group of seminary students, and I was like, no way. Like I'm never going to be able to be inspirational. I have no inspiration left. Like I came from like that to like I have nothing left to give. I shared recently that like at that time I'd called my mother twice. The reason that I found out that I had depression is because like at some point I went from being the most confident person, like feeling like I have so much to give and like being so confident in my ability to influence and to inspire, to like having to call my mother twice within a sequence of a few weeks and saying, could you tell me something nice about myself? Like I couldn't think of anything positive that I had left in me. I just felt like and depression is really scary in that you don't recognize that you're depressed. It takes and anxiety is different in that you're usually aware that you're different. But in depression, you feel like whatever it is real. I just felt like, okay, I was capable until now, and now I'm older, I'm 22, and now I'm no longer capable like I used to be. And now the younger people, so I would literally be like, ask someone younger than me. I'm not like able to speak anymore. Like Hashem took away my gift to speak. So I actually felt like I was ready to retire. At that point, I was calling friends of mine who were like in their 70s and saying like, I relate to you. Like I feel like I'm just ready to like retire and waiting until like I die, because I have nothing left to give the world. It was a very scary time for me. I actually felt like it was never going to come back. Like my spark, my gift, like I got it like, you know, until now. And now it's taken away from me and given to younger people. It was a very scary time. So I feel like I'm sharing this to like sometimes we feel so insignificant and like, okay, who am I to share when there's so many more significant people than me? And we compare ourselves to other people and we forget that if I was insignificant, I wouldn't exist, right? The reason that I exist is because I have something that I have a gift that no one else can have. Otherwise, my number I wouldn't exist. They wouldn't need me. The reason I'm here. And I ended up coming back to I got back, Baruch Hashem, I never got back to where I was before, like the self-efficacy that I had then. I've never gotten back there. But after I had a baby, there was a moment of relief, like the hormonal, like adrenaline that I got after delivering. Like for a moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm back to myself. And although it only lasted a few weeks, like I realized then that like I could get back to myself. And Baruch Hashem, through medication, therapy, I was able to, a long journey of like trying out different medications until I found the right one. I was able to finally like rebuild my sense of self and now not run away when someone asks me to speak, even though there's so much self-doubt. I never got back to feeling like I'm the best person, which is probably good because I always teach from the Kutzkara that there's nothing as whole as a broken heart. When someone feels so whole and indestructible, there's danger in that. There's like a falsehood in that. There's an arrogance in that, and thinking like, yeah, of course, I'm the best person to speak. Now I know that there's people better than me, but I know that there's people who could for sure speak more eloquently than me, who are more spiritual than me, who keep way more Torah mitzvahs than me. But at the same time, I know that there's something that I can give that no one else can give as well. That even someone who's better than me can't give something because Hashem made me and woke me up today and gave me this opportunity to give something that no one else can give. Because the Medrash says that when a person creates like a pattern for money, a mince, every single one of the coins that come out are exactly the same. When Hashem created this entire human being, no one came out the same. Not just in how we look, not just in our fingerprint, but in our fingerprint on the world. Not one of us influences the exact same way. There's no two influencers who are the same. All of us have something to give. We have this unique combination of light that we can give, of spheros that no one else can contribute. So I know I've been talking about this so much this year because it came up with Moshe Rabbeinu. It came up in so many different ways with ego and humility, with like the stories of like having in one pocket one, that I'm the lowest, and in one pocket I'm the highest, and the world was created for me. But this is a theme, I guess, of the year, to recognize that balance between the two. So now going back to counting reminds us that we are indisposable, that without that number, the rest of the organism crumbles. Without one part in the ecosystem, everything crumbles. So it reminds us you are significant, but you're also just one number. You also have something that unites you to everyone else. You also have your one number like everybody else. So it's a uniting factor, it's an equalizer, and it also lifts us up. The end. The end of that part. Part one. Ella. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to open up, but Rachel Ksia asked me a few weeks ago to share something personal after the shiur, and I was like, you know what, I used to share a lot more, and then I got like shy, so I have to really push myself to share. But I feel like when anyone shares with me something that they've gone through, it only helps me feel like seen and feel like, oh, I'm not the only one, and it always changes me. So knowing that that's what I could give back. Yeah, you can always ask me to share more.
This hits home because we're having to move, and it's really. And finally, I said, you know what? Even if I do a little bit,
yeah, a move. You're moving.
But Esther Adler is a large 3-bedroom apartment, smaller. She doesn't use 98% of her stuff.
You're significant. You matter.
Yeah.
I'm the number one time going back to this, but like. I shared this before, but I don't know if you guys remember, but I was asked to speak after I got back my mojo. I'm never still like back to that place where I'm like, yeah, anything you ask me, I could do it. I went to represent, when I was working like a couple of years ago, after a year of coming here, I was working as a director of Mayinot, which is a women's yeshiva for women. And I went to represent Mayinot at this conference in New York called Pagisha for thousands of college students from all different campuses. And Friday night, they asked me to give a talk. I was like, sure, I'll give a talk. Like, no problem. I'll give a talk about Tanya. So they put me on the roster. I show up to the Shabbaton like a week before they send me like the roster. And I see that I'm speaking Friday night at the same time as Rabbi YY Jacobson. I literally I was like, why would you do that to me? Like, no one's going to show up to me. Like, I was like, literally, like, I couldn't even like breathe. I was just like, no, like, why would you do that? Like, Rabbi YY Jacobson is speaking. Everyone should just go to him. Why are you putting me at the same time? Like, put like him with people who can like, people would also want to hear, not someone who nobody knows, who cannot offer anything. I was like, it's like a chutzpah. Like, I don't want to share anything. You get to share better. So I was like, no way, like, take me off. And then I had to work a lot inside to feel like they wouldn't change it. They're like, it's too late. It's printed. Like, everyone has this. And I was just like, I'm not going to talk. Like, I'm just going to not show up. I'll say like, I'll make up a reason. Like, I'll just say I'm not feeling well. I'm not going to come to that talk. And I really worked hard at that time. So I never got, like, I was feeling very insecure. I prepared a really good Tanya class, like a summary of Tanya in like an hour. And I was sure that nobody was going to come. And at the end, I went to this classroom where I was teaching it, and like 15 students came. First of all, like I was shocked that even 15 students came. I'm like, why wouldn't you go hear Y.Y. Jacobson, right? He charges like $10,000 a talk. Like I'm sure he donated his time or gave a discount at that time to inspire the future students. But I was still like, why would anyone come to my talk? Do they not know Y.Y.? I was like, anyways, I ended up afterwards like doing a lot of like introspection and working on my own sense of self to recognize that even though Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson is an incomparably greater speaker than I am, somehow there are people who would still connect more to my way of speaking, not because I'm a better speaker, but because there's maybe something personal or vulnerable or raw about the way I talk that maybe will influence somebody differently. So I'm not comparing myself anymore. I'm like, oh wow, like I don't have to try to be a speaker like he is. I just have to be uniquely myself, and people who will connect to that style will connect to me. And that was like probably the biggest shift for me in self-confidence, in like self-acceptance, I'm looking for the right word, in like being enough, because I felt like I always had to be the best, and it shifted from being the best to just being myself and giving something that I'm recognizing that I can give something. At that moment when people showed up to my class, even though I was talking, I was like, oh wow, like I can give something that he can't give. So like, I mean, like he can do it better, but I'm not trying to be him. I'm just trying to give something that he can't give. He's not going to go share personal stories. And I was like, oh wow, like I'm unique, I'm different. And that helped me understand that and grow in a way that I never, like confidence that I've never had. Because rather than trying to think I'm the best at everything, I'm not the best, but I'm me. And so that's like the significance of an organism, right? Like there's the toenails, which are not the best part of the organism, but we need them, right? Without our feet, the head can't go anywhere. And that's that famous story. So we veered off. This is not where I was planning to take the class today, but let me see how much time we have. 36 minutes in. Okay, let's connect this to a desert now. The desert is a very similar, is the almost exact same concept as the counting. And the amazing thing is that this week's Parsha, where most of the Parsha involves counting the Jewish people and then how they were set up, how they were going to be set up around the tabernacle, around the Mishkan, around the sanctuary, was that every three is fascinating. And the fact that Bamidbar, which is in the desert and about counting, is read always the week before, the Shabbos before receiving the Torah, is so powerful. And we see it the most in that in the desert, the Torah was specifically given in the desert, which is a very big question. And there's many answers, because you would think, where is the Torah given? In Eretz Yisrael. But it was not given in Eretz Yisrael for many reasons. There's so many answers. I'm going to go through a couple of them today. But ultimately, the number one, the underlying answer between all of them is that in the desert, there is, no one can lay claim to the desert. In a desert, everyone is equal. In a society, a desert is a place where there is no society, right? Everywhere else, there's a society. So if the Torah would have been given anywhere else but a desert, there would have been a pre-established society with hierarchy, with statuses, with societal norms, with laws, with a judicial system, with a system or a class of social norms. And the Torah was chosen to be given in a place that had no society, no classes, for so many reasons. But mainly so that we can come to get the Torah as a desert, that every single one of us comes to receive the Torah from a place without any preconceived views on how our life should be, without any preconceived views of social statuses. And and also it was the Medrash says clearly that if the Torah would have been given in Eretz Yisrael, then all the nations would have felt that the Torah only belongs to the Jewish people. And Hashem said, no, the Torah doesn't only belong to the Jewish people. The Torah, first of all, the Medrash says, had an opportunity for anyone to come and receive the Torah. We're the only ones who wanted it. But not only that, even after we're the ones who received the Torah, the Medrash says clearly that if anyone else who's not a Jew wants to connect to the Torah, let him come and accept the Torah. He's always welcome to come and accept the Torah. Any person who isn't Jewish, right, who wants to come and accept the Torah, he has to come before base and accept the Torah, and he could be one of us. We're not saying that the Torah only belongs to somebody who's connected to Eretz Yisrael, who was born in Eretz Yisrael. Even a Jew who might feel like, oh, the Torah is more connected to those who were born in Eretz Yisrael, if he was born in other places. So to lay claim, that no one should lay claim to the Torah, that therefore the Torah was given in no man's land. So no nation should say the Torah was given in my jurisdiction, it belongs more to me than another person. That's part A. Now that's the answer that connects the most to the idea of the Midbar as an equalizer, just like counting. When we were counted, it shows that everyone is just one number. In the Midbar, or in the desert, where if you come take a group of people from society and they're trapped and stranded in a desert, the statuses don't matter anymore, right? If like whoever was the king before, it doesn't matter, right? We're all just trying to survive now. all statuses disappear. Even somebody who came from a society and comes to a desert where we have no more society, for a brief period of time, right now we're all equal. And the Torah was meant to be given to everyone equally, man, woman, child, greatest person, lowest person. Nobody has more claim to the Torah than another person. Nobody who's a higher status in Judaism, who's a rabbi, who's a holy tzaddik, has more claim to the Torah than someone who's a barren desert, than somebody who is inside a spiritual desert, right? A spiritual desert devoid of water, which is Torah. The Torah was also, so going back to the connection to the numbers, why is that connected to the Torah? In such a deep way, because we said that just like a person, without every single Jewish person, we're not complete, without the tzaddik, Benoni, and Rasha, and the tzibur, with the Torah as well, there's 304,805 letters in the Torah. And if anyone is a sofer, they check the Torah, and if one letter in the Torah is smudged or erased, one letter, the entire Sefer Torah is incomplete. Sometimes you can fix a letter, and sometimes they have to put that Torah buried in the ground and create a new Torah if that letter can be fixed. Certain types of letters, if they're smudged or full words erased, there's letters that can be fixed and letters that can't be fixed. If it's cut off, if the paper is cut. So the fact that the Torah was made that way is not just by chance. It's to remind us that there was 304,000 letters in the Torah. I thought it was 604,000 letters in the Torah. I'm wrong, I guess. And the same idea as with our Jewish, that every one of us is a letter in the Torah. In fact, the Rebbe had a campaign called Ospa Sefer Torah that still goes on till today, that if you guys want to sign up, I can send you a link, that every single Jewish child should own a letter in the Torah. And they write every single year, even a few Torahs a year in the Old City, in Yerushalayim. The Rebbe started this idea that they write a Torah, and every child buys one letter in the Torah for $1 or 4 shekel. And so if you want to do it, you just sign up, you put your child's name, Hebrew name, their mother's name, you pay $1, and then they send you back which parsha in the Torah, which parsha your child owns a letter of, and they get a certificate that says their name and which parsha, and there's a Torah that's owned to teach us that every one of us has claim to the Torah equally. We're all just one letter, and if one person, just like one letter is smudged, everything, the Torah can't function. If one Jewish person isn't connected, we all feel that incompleteness. None of us are complete, even though we might want to delude ourselves into thinking that we're complete, or delude ourselves into thinking that we're insignificant because there are people who are better than us, or Jews who are better than us who can step up to the plate. Every one of us is meant to step up when we're supposed to. And that is one of the reasons that the Torah is specifically given in a desert where no one matters more than the other person, where every single person is equally significant and insignificant at the same time. A few more answers of why the Torah was given in a desert, because we're talking about the whole book of Bamidbar, we're talking about the entire Torah. Some people say that the Torah applies when I'm in my house or when I'm in Eretz Yisrael, but when I travel, I don't have to keep halacha as much, right? The Torah is specifically given not in a desert, in a place devoid of all life signs, to say that people who feel like, I'll keep Torah in my house, but I'll keep kosher in my house, but outside my house, I don't have to be as from. When I'm traveling away from home, laws of Torah don't apply to me. Therefore, the Torah was given outside of a society to say that no, it was specifically given to keep you strong, to keep you connected to moral standards, to your standards of something greater than you, especially when you're not at home, especially when you're far away, when you're in a barren desert without any societal pressures. And the greatest, one of the deepest answers, or the that I connect to the most from everything, is this. Many Jews, especially in modern Reform Judaism, will start to say, and this happens very often, and we all feel in some way, that I want Torah to fit into my modern life. I want to see how when people are coming to Judaism, or people who are now in the modern world, say, let me see how Torah fits into my life, right? Here's my life. I live a life that's like this, an American dream life. I want to fit Torah into my life. That's what Reform Judaism tried to do. Let's reform Torah to fit into our modern life. And that is something that's very appealing. But the question there is, if somebody says, like, I'll do Torah when it fits into my modern life. I want to be successful in the modern world. And when Torah, I'll see how Torah fits into that. And that's what Judaism has become in America for many, many people, fitting Torah in where it works in the modern world, reforming Torah to be more modern. Now, we're not saying that bringing Torah into our modern life is wrong, because the Rebbe was very the one who modernized Torah in a certain way to make Torah relevant even in the modern life. However, saying that I'll fit Torah into my modern society is in a way insignificant. If you can build your own life, what do you even need Torah for anyways, right? You could just fill your life with whatever you feel is right. You don't need Torah. The whole point of Torah is the exact opposite. It's not to fit Torah into our life, but the Torah was given to specifically when you should come to a completely blank slate. We don't come and say, here is my life, how does Torah fit into it? We say, how does Torah want me to live my life? Let me live my life let me build my life in the way that Hashem wants for me. And I look at it this way, that like if I'm buying a toy, right, and it doesn't come with instructions, someone gives me a toy without instructions, I could play with this toy. But then if I get a toy and I use it with the instructions, you could get so much more out of it. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that it does this and this and this and this. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So we can live our life how we want to, and we can live a good life. Or we can live a life with the instruction manual. So the Torah is actually the word Torah. It's the instruction manual Hashem gave us. He said, Hashem made me. Hashem created me. And Hashem said, let me give you the instructions for how to live your best life, your most fulfilling life, your most happy life, the life that will give you the most use you can out of the limited time you have in this world. So the Torah is literally the instruction manual for how to live my best life. For example, marriage. Hashem said, you can get married on your own, or you can look back in the instruction book and say, oh, look, this is how you can get the most out of marriage. If for 1 week a month or 11 days a month, you separate, you will have so much more out of your marriage if you do it. And you can even do it on your own terms without godly, divine, counting the way God says. But the problem with that is that many people in modern world have said, let's apply the Torah things to our lives on our own. The problem is that if any of you have tried to do it when you're not, if any of us have not had the nida, not have our period for a long time, and we tried to have that week of separation, we all know it doesn't work, because without God telling you to do it, it's like having a diet. It works or it doesn't. It works for a certain amount of time until it doesn't. When God tells you to do it, right, we say with the self-control I have when something is not kosher or not even a good enough hechsher is like millions of times infinitely greater than my self-control to not eat after 8 o'clock p.m., right? Like suddenly, because it's not from me, it's from somewhere higher. So the instruction manual from God is like, it's like a gift to us. The Torah is like, here's how you can get the most out of your life. It's not meant to say, here's your life, see how it fits in. It's like, structure your life, leave a blank slate, come to the Torah as a midbar, take away all societal advices of how to live your life, all of the regulations, not just all of the things that society tells you is important, all of these societal priorities, I guess, and also your own preconceived notions of what you think you need to live a good life. I need to have money. I need to be happy. I need to have a husband. I need to have children. I need to live here. I need to have this type of job. I need to be a stay-at-home mom. I need to work. I need to not. Take away all the preconceived notions. Be like a desert. So go to a desert which has no societal standards, that you want to fit the Torah into that mold. Be like, okay, let's get a Torah in Israel and see how the Torah fits into that lifestyle. Let's get a Torah in Egypt or in Rome or whatever country in America and see how the Torah fits into that. No, come as a blank slate, like Hashem created you, as a human being, right? And without anything, and take away all your preconceived notions and start from, and you're not from a moral place or anything. From here, Hashem is the one who created me, and here's his blueprint, here's his instruction manual of how I should live my life, and start from there, and then see if that works with what society said or not. Does that work with the societal norms or not? If it doesn't, reject the societal norms. Obviously, we have to follow the laws of the Medina, but that's because the Torah tells us to, because Hashem tells us to. That's the way to live your best life, right? But not because of any other reason. And that's ultimately the greatest and only way to approach a true Torah life. And it's not like, I'm not saying this as, by the way, it's very revolutionary to say this. It's very different. It's very novel. It's not simple to say this because it requires tremendous decluttering of everything, which is what we get in a midbar more than any other place in the world, more than a forest, more than a jungle, specifically a desert, not just a space that is no man's land. A desert, right? There's a lot of no man's land space, you can say, but a desert has a unique quality that even a jungle, a beach, a splitting of the sea, the brink of the sea, it could have been given there, but no, it was given in a desert without water, without anything else. And in a moment, I'll tell you why. So if we're coming to the approach of the Torah, that the Torah is real and it's from God, right? If we're coming to that approach, let's assume that we all believe that Hashem is real and that the Torah is from God. Then it's the authentic blueprint, right, that God should give us. Then our question should be not, how do I find a Judaism that doesn't disturb my life too much, but what does Judaism tell me about my calling, right? Not how can I mold Judaism in my image of how I want my life, but how can I mold my life into the image of what Torah is? It's completely changing everything. And it's really difficult to do. It's not easy to change around, but it's a really great mind switch. If Torah really is true, right, and it's from God, then I have to have the courage, I have to muster up the courage to take a hard look at all my preconceived notions, right, of all my thoughts, all my behavior patterns, to discover truths that might challenge me to change everything. And most of what we do every day is based on truths that we believe, fundamental truths that we believe that might not actually be real fundamental truths. They might have been ingrained in us by society, by our family, by our school, by our friends, or but why we feel that we need to be happy and successful in life. And to challenge those is huge. And I think that, and to me, the best place I can go to physically on the map to rid myself of all of those, the buildup of preconceived notions is a desert. On my 19th birthday, I decided that I want to go. Like I was inspired by The Little Prince by Saint Exupéry, the French author, which the book translates to many, like Saint Exupéry, right? And he speaks there about how the desert. He says, "I always love the desert. You sit down on a sand dune, you see nothing, you hear nothing, and yet something shines, something sings in that silence." And I wanted to get in touch with like my core, with removing all of those layers. The desert, there's nothing. There's just darkness and stars, and you feel this like how great and vast the world is, and how much greater it is than what you like the boxes you put yourself into. All the boxes disappear. So I decided I'm going to spend the night in the desert. I'm not going to take anything with me. I just like went with some water and like a backpack and my notebook, and I just spent the night there. My friend insisted on accompanying me. I'm like, "Hey, stay far away. Like I want to just be alone." And it was such a transformative experience, just to be able to like be alone in silence. There's a silence that this desert affords. That there's no trees. There's no noise. And the ocean, I always say that the ocean is a place to rejuvenate, right? I love the beach. It rejuvenates me. It makes me alive. It makes me want to dance and sing. But the desert is a different type of rejuvenation, because the desert, the ocean might waken you up, but there's senses there. There's no noise. There's the view. There's the sounds, and there's the smell of the ocean. At the desert, there's nothing. There's no waves. There's no noise. There's no sounds. There's no smell. It's just silence. It's just you and silence. And it's a different type of awakening. And I always say, when you want to wake up and rejuvenate and be like alive, you go to the ocean. But when you want to like go inwards and go within and just remove the noise and just go deep down, you have to be in a strong place to go there, right? To go to that deep, dark place, that deep, quiet place. That's when you go to the desert, to just remove all of the boxes. And then suddenly you can just like question all of the boxes that you put yourself into. Like, who said that I need this to be happy? Is that actually true? Is that what the Torah says? Like, do I need this to be fulfilled? Do I actually need this type of lifestyle? Like, who said I'm supposed to even be here? Like, I'm so set. I'm like, I need to find a house in this community, but is that even true, right? Like, maybe I'm supposed to be somewhere else. Who decided, right? I go where Hashem sends me. And we can let go of so many preconceived notions. Who said I have to look like that to be beautiful, to be attractive, to be worthy? Who said I have to be that person to be valuable to society? Who said that I have to be doing programs like that to be a successful shlucha? Who said that I even have to, be like providing for everyone else right now? Like we're questioning everything and getting down to like being an empty slate, to be an inner barren desert, and be able to receive the Torah in that place is one of the deepest messages that I connected to in this concept. Going to Har Sinai challenged us to like revisit existence from its deepest genesis, right? To look at all of history and re-examine life from the nucleus, to see the world not from the human societal perspective, but the perspective of Hashem, who cannot be confined into any human modality. To see the Torah without any human notion coming and affecting it in any way, right? And we want to redo this process every single year from anew. To want to receive the Torah, we have to have the courage to walk into a desert, to strip ourselves from all the predefined self-identity, from everything we thought, I am like this, I am this type of person, right? We need to be ready to listen, to hear, and the sound, right? Na'asa v'nishma. We want to be able to nishma. And one of the most beautiful things about Judaism is that we're not just a nation of speaking, because we always speak about our power to speak, to create. But one of the fundamentals in Judaism is that we're also a nation of hearing, because every day, 3 times a day, we say Shema Yisrael, that we're a nation of listening and not just being silent. We're a nation of silence, but a silence that is a communicative silence, a listening that is the deepest type of listening, a listening of being bittul. And bittul is a very fundamental concept in Chassidus. Bittul means being batul, it actually means nullifying, but it's not to be a doormat and to say, I'm a nobody, I'm just going to do whatever God says. It's actually an active sense of opening myself up to things that are even greater, and not limiting myself to the things, but being bittul and opening myself up to something even greater. That's what true bittul is. It's not a nullifying, being a doormat. It's actually actively listening. So Shema Yisrael teaches us that we're a nation of listening, of hearing, of being in the desert, being able to listen to the messages that Hashem is telling us in life, being able to stop the noise and being able to enter a desert oasis inside of our soul, and being able to listen to the deeper messages that are being communicated to us very deep down that we don't get to hear when we're so distracted by all of the other noise in our life. So if we could enter this midbar inside of us, this quiet space, that we can enter the Sinai, this like quiet Sinai, and hear, wait, what is Hashem trying to communicate to me in this moment? What is the person in front of me, right? We can react right away and speak when someone is angry at us, or we could say, wait a minute, what's actually being communicated to me right now by Hashem? Let me just ignore the messenger and the way that the message was displayed. And instead of reacting to my child who's having a tantrum and freak out and like yell at him, or tell him to stop, let me just listen to what he's actually communicating. Listening very deeply is who we are at our core. And that's why throughout the Torah and throughout Tanakh, we see such an emphasis on silence. We say that kol damam adaka, that greater than all of the praises we can give Hashem is our silence. L'cha dumiyat zila, to you, silence is praise. Sometimes, more than any compliments we can tell somebody who are beautiful, comes in front of us, we could just look at them in silence. And that look is not a non-communicative silence. It's communicating that the beauty in front of me is too infinite to even speak, right? The silence is communicating even more than words can communicate. So there's a beauty in the silence of the desert. There's a in the words of Jonathan Sachs, he says, from time to time, we need to step back from the noise and hubbub of the social world and create in our hearts the stillness of the desert, where within the silence, we can hear the kol damam adaka, the still small voice of Hashem, telling us we're loved, telling us we're heard, that we are embraced by Hashem's everlasting arms, and that we are not alone. In last year in this class, I took a minute to do silent meditation. Do you guys want to do it now or after the class? It's just a minute of silence to like enter the desert space inside our hearts. It's so powerful. We'll do it afterwards. And ultimately, I think that's really going back to the original, tying everything together now, going back to the beginning. I think this is why the Torah was given in a desert, and why one whole book of our history was dedicated to only 40 years in the desert, because we actually learn that we come down into this world and we spend most of our life in the barren desert of the life, in the emptiness, the desert represents, I guess, the low, empty moments of our lives when there are no highs. There's not the dramatic, like the Sinai's of the Egypt, the being enslaved in Egypt, the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Those don't make up most of our lives. We have some moments here and there where we have this miracle of birth, right? Most of our life, it's not a miraculous state. It's not a crazy like Holocaust, like in Egypt, and it's not like the greatness highs of like Eretz Yisrael, representing our times when we're in like the Beit HaMikdash and we're davening, when we're in shul, when we're connecting spiritually. Most of our lives is actually a barren desert. Most of our lives is just the empty in between, the lows between the highs, right? And because we're going to spend most of our lives in a barren desert, then we may feel like empty in those spaces. And the Torah being given and dedicating an entire book to the barren desert reminds us that we actually, in this space, is where we create the biggest growth. But in this space in between, and the in-between space in the desert, where it feels like there's barren and there's nothing going on, that the Torah applies there as well. That we're connecting. The Torah is given to us, and we can connect in those barren moments where there is no highs, and that somehow in those still moments we can actually listen to the life's deeper messages sometimes, and get even more greatness from those lows, from the desert, from the times when we feel like we're just a barren desert, when there's nothing really happening right now in my life. There's no highs, there's no lows, there's no miracles, there's no like connection right now. There's just like empty days, repetitive days, and the desert just being repetitive. In that space, somehow we can actually find the deepest voices and connect in the highest, most real way. So I want to bless all of us to be able to I want to bless all of us to receive the Torah, from being able to shed all of the preconceived notions, all of the societal norms, and be able to come to a space of openness to receive the Torah where we're at in our space, and hopefully connect on a level, being able to, in the level of real, true emes and bittul, and receive the Torah with Kabbalah Torah, with simcha, with joy, and with an essential way. Chaim, thank you for joining. Anyone want to add, share, questions?